Golden Spiral Media presents The Blacklist Exposed.
Hello, special agents. You have come to the right place. Welcome to The Blacklist Exposed. I am Agent Troy Heinrichs. We are here with a special edition of The Blacklist Exposed with our Season 1 special archive episodes. The following episode appeared on the TV Talk Network for Season 1 of The Blacklist, and we're bringing it to you here on The Blacklist Exposed, remastered and used with permission from TV Talk. We hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy this special episode from Season 1.
You're tuned in to TV Talk, The Blacklist. Welcome to TV Talk, America's #1 TV talk show network. And now it's time for TV Talk, The Blacklist.
Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, and Red sure had his eyes on a few beauties this evening. Welcome to TV Talk, The Blacklist. I'm Troy.
And I'm Dave, here to discuss number 73 on The Blacklist, Madeline Pratt, airing February 24th, 2014.
A big shout out and a hello to all the listeners. Welcome back to The Blacklist. We should be here hopefully for 9 straight. We thank you so much for tuning in via iHeartRadio today. Glad to have you here with us.
And remember, you can find the show via Stitcher, iTunes, and always via the free TV Talk app for iOS and Android.
Well, how you been, Dave? Good to hear from you.
Yeah, Troy, it's been too long. Well, what, a full month off, wasn't it?
Yeah, and a bunch of stuff's been happening, I suppose. Red's been trying to globetrot around the world, find some new places to move into so that he has some hideouts here for the next 9 episodes.
It's great. It was great to watch them all again tonight. It's a fantastic show, and I'm glad we're going to be here for 9 straight.
But what was really interesting was that we opened up with this potential, oh my gosh, does Red have a wife? Mrs. Reddington is breaking into a bank?
Yeah, we're in Istanbul, Turkey. We are doing some globetrotting, and we're at the bank. It appears Mrs. Reddington, wink, wink, is in checking out the safety deposit box.
No, I love how she just kind of leaves nonchalantly through the front door, and then the alarm bells go off. It's like, does anybody not realize that you have to have 5 different passcodes in order to get into these safe deposit boxes?
Exactly, and she wraps the little scarf around her head, blends in nicely, and is able to just waltz away.
So the question I have is that if you're getting acupuncture done, how does poking your face affect how well your spleen feels?
There's just absolutely no way that looks like it can be any fun whatsoever, having those little needles stuck in you.
It reminded me of that horror movie. What was it, Pinhead or something?
Yeah, Pinhead. Hellraiser, yeah.
Hellraiser, that's exactly right.
Yeah, some crazy stuff going on. But he gets told about the box. He gets told that Mrs. Reddington has taken whatever was in that box.
I mean, in hell hath no fury than a woman scorned, right? Because we feel like this person, Madeline Pratt, number 73 on the Blacklist, she is definitely trying to get back at Red for something that happened in Florence. Whether it was a relationship or a gig, we're not quite sure at the start of this episode, but she's definitely out to get Red's number.
She has, and she's off to a great start by getting into this box.
And the one thing that I love about Red in this entire series so far is his clubhouses. So he just happens to be sitting in this hedge fund manager's house with all this artwork, and Liz is like, well, I thought you lived here. And Red's like, no, it's just some dude that's probably getting chased down, and I just crash here when I can.
Yeah, he's always in someplace weird. Every episode he's in some back storage shed, or you never know where he's going to turn up.
Well, he did church for 2 episodes in a row, so I wonder, has he lost his faith? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, I guess it could be.
So the real kind of interesting story tonight is this Tom and Lizzie relationship. So we have kind of 3 pivotal scenes with Tom and Lizzie where they're discussing the fallout of Liz's decision not to move forward with the adoption, and call it 1 for 3 Is that right? 1 for 3? I can't do math anymore. 1 out of 3, which is good for baseball season, right? Baseball starting up. So 333, or if you're a weatherman, it kind of works out. But if you're in a marriage trying to adopt children, 1 out of 3 doesn't work so well.
No, and they just can't seem to get past this whole adoption issue. Tom just seems to really be done with the whole thing. You know, the one scene, he's like in mid-conversation, he just leaves the room. You know, he's like paying her no attention whatsoever.
Yeah, I thought it was actually really great delivery on that, because Liz is in the refrigerator and Tom just grabs the keys, walks out the door, and Liz is still mid-conversation with him. And she's like, hey, I'm still talking here. Where are you going?
Well, and he actually, you know, I mean, you got to wonder, because he mentions that one of his family members, I'm assuming it must be his sister, is pregnant again. And it's just the way he says it. You know, it's almost in a hurtful kind of way, you know, kind of like, oh, well, I can't remember the character's name, is going to have another kid, you know, and you can almost see the hurt in Liz's eyes, you know, and she kind of plays it off. There's definitely some bad blood brewing there.
Yeah. And I wonder if the fact that I'm assuming that she can't have kids. I'm trying to remember back from the beginning of the episode why they were adopting in the first place. And I'm assuming it's because she can't have children. So I wonder if whatever happened to her in her growing up years with this tying into Red, tying into whatever's going on, is the thing that's really, you know, caused her not to be able to have children. And that's why they went the adoption route. Or is it Tom that has some issues that they're not able to have children? We haven't really, I don't think, scratched the surface of that story as to why adoption was their only option.
Yeah, we'll have to, maybe that'll come out as we proceed through this, but it was always just been a given that for whatever reason they have to adopt.
But then they have this like touching scene, right? So as we progress through the episode, you know, we basically find out that Madeline Pratt is looking for some statue, an effigy, and this statue is basically got some critical information that the U.S. government obviously would love to have, as well as the Russian government and the Syrian government and any other government for that matter who wants to get anything intelligence-wise. And it apparently has a piece of paper that talks about the Kumlar 6, which at the beginning of the episode is a bunch of Russian spies, apparently.
You know, to contain that type of information, you would think that this effigy would have to be kind of large in size. And it's not. This is just like a little, like an aftershave lotion bottle. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's really quite small.
Yeah, when they were panning through that security outfit where she was standing when Liz and Red break into the embassy and try to steal the effigy, it's just kind of sitting there on the counter like a piece of china.
Yeah. So, but apparently it's a big deal because, as you've mentioned, every government known to man wants this thing.
Yeah, I believe the words that Red said would be like finding these Russian spies is like the holy grail of counterintelligence. So it's almost like we have a little Indiana Jones, you know, mission here trying to find this, you know, coveted thing and hide it from all the people that want to get their hands on it. So apparently they have to send, I mean, Liz is already working for a black ops division in a sort of way, right, for the FBI. So now she's basically doing a black op for black ops. She's going to be going into foreign soil to break into this embassy in order to steal this effigy and be completely on her own. And I think this is where the conversation starts to happen with Madeline Pratt, and you have to start to go, well, who's really telling the truth here? Because this story about the drugstore night manager just seemed very well put together, and I didn't know how to quite make this. I don't know about you, Dave.
Yeah, and this is where things started getting a little convoluted for me. I'm not going to lie. I kind of lost track of things a little bit here. It was kind of difficult to follow because, like you were saying, it's a black op about a black op while they're, you know, it started getting really convoluted, but like I said, kind of lost me a little bit.
Well, it was great how Red was kind of like, yeah, tell him about Omaha, tell him about this. And Liz is looking at him like, okay, did we prep this conversation ahead of time, or do you really know about all this stuff?
They do that again later in the episode as well.
Yeah, and I can't quite put my finger on it. And then they're like talking about the, you know, how did you know about Omaha while they're dancing? And it almost seems like even there they kind of played it off as like, well, it was a setup to begin with. But previous to that scene, they did a really good job where a wrestler actually says it's like, well, you know, we didn't find a criminal record on you, Liz. So is it that we didn't find one because you don't have one, or because you didn't get caught? And they really stress that point. So I think this story that she tells about seducing this night manager is really a true story, and that she was actually working with her boyfriend to steal money to get by day to day.
Oh, it's very, very possible. That would actually make sense.
So they have to go to this ball at the embassy. Liz puts on the red dress, and this is where it gets a little convoluted with the Tom storyline this evening for me, because now they're doing this like, oh, I'm sorry I walked out on you. So, do you want to go undercover before you go undercover?
Yeah, they kind of have it was almost out of place in a way, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was like filmed for a different part of a show, maybe another later episode or something. Just a quick turnaround by Tom. He seems to do that a lot, actually, now that I think about it. As you keep going back to these episodes, he's like, he's mad, he's fine, he's mad, he's fine. He's getting stabbed in the gut, and then, basically, brought in for questioning, then he's fine, and he's upset, We all know that Tom's kind of screwy in the head to begin with, but this just seemed like it, from where it started in the episode to him being pissed, you assume that he's going to be going to Lucy Brooks, whatever her actual fake name is. Can't remember off the top of Jolene.
Jolene, yes.
You assume that they're going to be going to Jolene at some point in the episode because he's just going to be ticked off about Liz working and the whole adoption thing. But then he's like, yeah, you want to go undercover before you go undercover?
Hey, baby.
That's the weirdest line, I think, of the night.
That gets us to the embassy finally, though.
Right. She's got the red dress on. She's sitting there, and then Red comes downstairs and he's like, whoa. Dude, I like your clutch.
He's great at delivering those type of lines. He really is. You never know what he's going to say in those situations. The little one-liners are perfect.
And it's weird too, because we all have this, is Red Lizzie's father? Is he the uncle? Is he something? So it'd be weird if he like paid some kind of compliment to her that was sexual in nature, because if he is the dad, then that would be awkward, right?
And this whole scene had a real True Lies vibe to me. Remember the Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, the tango scene and everything.
Didn't it have that kind of vibe to it?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, this whole episode screamed Alias through and through. I mean, we know that John Eisendrath worked on Alias, quite a bit. So, the whole, bumping into the guy to steal his badge and then copying the badge and then putting the badge back. I mean, had a very much a Sidney Marshall kind of aspect for those of you that are Alias fans out there. So, I felt this pulled a lot from the Alias realm as they went through this episode.
And one of the best lines of the night are delivered in the scene where "You're not a cop tonight, you're a criminal."
Oh, yeah. That's going to be my status update, I think, in the morning. I thought that was a great line. So then we have another kind of side story going on as this whole thing goes down, looking for this effigy, and it's the investigation into Diane's death. And something about Harold just kind of, I don't know, bugged me or threw me off. He seems to be playing like the good cowboy, but at the same time, it seems with his eyes like someone's pulling his strings. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's funny you'd say that, and we hadn't talked about this before, but yeah, you definitely get the feeling that there's something going on there.
Because Diane commissioned the post office, right? And you assume that we saw Diane talking to Fitz, in the previous episode right after Ansel Garrick, when we came back from after the winter hiatus. So Diane and Fitz obviously know each other. So the question is, does Fitz and Harold know each other, or is Harold that far removed at this point? But he's basically digging into Diane's death and told Red that he'd be personally held responsible if we find out that Diane's dead. And
right.
The usual thing that you throw down on a criminal when you're trying to
shake him down a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Because someone's going to shake Red down. If Ansel Garrett can't do it, no one's going to do it.
But yeah, Harold gives Malik orders to kind of start nosing around, right?
Which is really interesting, since Malik's the one that led everybody to Diane's death in the first place when she told Red that Diane was the mole. So yeah, why not have Malik kind of look into it and set it all up? And I don't know, that the whole thing just seems weird to me. The whole, maybe it's supposed to be, we don't know. Oh, wait. Yeah. We do know, because that story ends up taking a really interesting turn towards the end of the episode.
Yeah, but we don't know it at the time when we're seeing it. So.
Right. So at the start of the episode, this is the best thing about the Blacklist so far, I think, is that you're totally thinking one thing and then something strange just happens out of the blue. And I think that's what makes the show totally great, because we find out that as they're trying to get this effigy from the embassy, they get captured. Red has this really great flamboyant character that he puts off in order to save Liz.
Yeah, that was crazy. I had no idea where that was going, but that was a wild scene.
I'm like watching my watch. It's like, how long is he going to carry this on before he just cold cocks the guy? Come on. Yeah,
well, because Lizzie sets the alarm off.
Well, and he shoots the gun. So you assume that he's shooting the gun upstairs to cause panic. so that people will rush out of the building so that he could rush out of the building with Liz. But instead, he's just like having this 5-minute conversation about, do you know who this is? I mean, you can't keep her captive and whatever.
It's crazy going on about the cummerbund being upside down. And yeah, it was crazy. But again, very well done.
And the whole time, he's just setting this all up. So is he and Madeline working together? Because she just ups and leaves with the effigy who's sitting upstairs on the china shelf. So they escape. Everybody's fine, but they don't have the effigy. But then, of course, we find out the big shock of this evening that the effigy really isn't holding Russian spies' names. It's holding the location of 6 nuclear weapons.
It always comes down to nuclear weapons, doesn't it?
Well, why is it always nuclear weapons and Russians? Can another country be, it's always nuclear weapons and Russia for some reason.
It's been that way forever, hasn't it?
But what a great way to tie into the political situation of everything going on over with Russia and Syria, and this is the Syrian embassy and all that stuff. So I think being very practical at the same time of the current events, but tying it into past history. And, these suitcase nukes have been here since the 60s or whatever.
Right. And everybody knows, when the Soviet Union fell apart, the whereabouts of all that stuff. No, they don't know where any of that stuff went.
I mean, it's crazy what you could think about what actually could be out there in real life as they come up with these stories, right? Because stories always come from some form of truth. Even if you're telling, standard stories, growing up over the campfire, what have you, all the mysteries are always rooted in truth in some way. So it'd be really interesting to see where they come up with, something like suitcase nukes hidden right here in the U.S. That's, totally was like, wow, where'd that come from?
Yeah, it's spooky to think of, actually. Now you're kind of just freaking me out, Troy.
Well, then we'll change it up for you because our good friend Wrestler, this guy, of course he's going to be there at the bust when they actually finally get the effigy out of the wall. And the first thing I thought of is like, wow, dude heals up well in 4 weeks. Where's his cane?
It's miraculous healing.
I mean, he's running around, he's kicking the guy, he's like, he moves very gracefully for a man who basically had his knee and leg completely ripped apart in a box. So, but again, Wrestler, of course, gets hit in the face. So all of you that are playing along with the Wrestler gets hurt game of your choice, you obviously had a point there for this evening. They captured the guy who was Madeline's date to the ball at the embassy. And of course, when they find the effigy, nothing is inside.
No, it's sand, right?
Yeah, it's sand. I mean, they're expecting to find, I don't know, some type of a little scroll or something that's going to have these launch codes. Or what do they call them? They don't call them launch codes. They call them something else. Like suitcase locations or the coordinates.
Yeah, something like that. But the coordinates, that's what they called them. Nothing in it, just sand.
But the thing that's great about this is that at that moment, when you see the sand in there, you're still in the back of your mind going, okay, did Red put the sand in there? Did Madeline put the sand in there?
You always got to wonder when Red's involved. You just never know what he's had his hand in.
Because the greatest scene of the night, obviously, is this jail cell scene where they're basically walking down the street. Red catches up to Madeline, and then these people just jump out of nowhere and tase both of them. It's like, okay, so who's in charge that can tase 2 of the most criminally mastermind people out of the blue?
Right, and they just kind of throw him in the back of this truck or a van, and the next time we see him, Madeline's locked up in her own little cell, and they're dragging Red in.
And then, of course, the frustrating part of the episode then happens because, Madeline's talking about, why didn't you come to Florence? So Red starts to tell her why he didn't make it to Florence, and it's this, I ran out of gas on Christmas Eve, and then by the time I walked 5 miles, uphill both ways in a snowstorm, and I got to my house, did I see this bloodbath of my family? And he specifically mentioned in the story that, he was thinking about his daughter. So it, of course, brings back into play either the, Red is Lizzie's father card, or Red is maybe Lucy Brooks's father. That's kind of another theory that's been floating out there now.
Yep.
And then maybe there's just a third female that's in there that we don't know about yet. Maybe it's, somebody related to Tom, as one of our listeners, I think Doug said, what if Red was Tom's father, and maybe it's Tom's sister that's Red's daughter at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that was a very well played scene. Again, the whole thing, just the way he tells the story, and about, he says he walks in the door and all he remembers is the blood. Just the blood is everywhere, and no detail is ever given. What were they? Was it an execution? Was it a slaughter? What happened? He just relates the story, and it obviously moves Madeline.
Right, and moves her enough that when Red's taken away, that she's like, okay, I'll tell you where the codes are, and she writes them down, and then of course Red's like, ha ha, Tempe, good stuff.
Yeah, it was a great reveal because they actually drag Red out and she's like screaming, leave him alone, I'll tell you what you want. So she does, she writes down the codes and the guy walks around the corner and who walks back around, but our friend Red.
And you know that this show is really great when the first question that pops into your mind as the viewer was any of the story Red just told truth? And what does Madeline say? Is anything you said true? And I was like, thank you so much.
What she asked. Was anything about that Christmas Eve story true? Immediately puts doubt to everything you just heard.
And then Red's like, have a nice day. Thank you very much. But
as good as Red is, I don't know that he could provoke that kind of emotion by just making something up. I mean, he really seemed to be talking from the heart, but who knows?
But at the end of the day, all is said and done. The world is safe. Suitcase nukes are going to be found because, of course, our good buddies, Red and Harold, who have worked through the ranks all these years, are sitting down across from a desk like two old gentlemen trading baseball cards.
But Red wants the effigy.
Yeah, and I wonder what the effigy itself will come into play other than, Red obviously likes collecting art, but obviously there must be some other purpose that this effigy serves. And of course, as this plays out, do we find that this painting that he absolutely hated is now missing? And of course, Madeline stole the painting and took it to Florence and said that she's waiting for you there. So he puts the effigy in the place of the painting. And then, of course, the music starts up, and we have a great track this evening. It's called Reynold Gregory Erickson II, and it's by Strifker. And a really great song. Plays actually a really long time. They showed a lot of stuff towards the end of this episode.
Yeah, they've kind of started doing that. They show these like montage things. You see kind of everybody that was involved through the entire episode, what they're up to while this song plays. And you're right. This was a particularly good song.
And of course, the one scene that we were waiting for in the montage was Tom, of course, miraculously just bumping into Lucy at this kind of bed and breakfast hotel that him and his supposed wife, since he pretty much thinks that they need to put things on hold per his phone call. So he ends up bumping into Lucy, and we pretty much know where that's probably going to go.
Where that's going to happen. They looked like they were at some type of a conference or something. Wasn't he picking up a name tag or something?
Yeah, it looked like that. Maybe he was just picking up keys for the room. I wasn't quite sure because they said that they were going to go away together and that Liz was going to miss the flight. And then so he's like, no, I'm just going to go early. I'm going to go tonight instead. So maybe it was just keys to the hotel, and that's why they knew his name and gave him a welcome badge or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, he walks around the corner and boom, there's Lucy looking all sexy.
And of course, Liz, being an FBI agent, has the sideshow of being a magician on the side. Baby here, baby gone. Baby here, baby gone.
She's doing the old coin roll trick with an ultrasound picture.
But we do end the episode with our really interesting guy. So our talkback question this week is, what do you make of the man from the DC Bureau?
Yeah, and he got a little nasty kind of quick with Harold, didn't he? It started off polite, and it just kind of became yeah, you're pretty much done there, my friend.
So we have the questions, of course, around, does he work for the DC Bureau? Does he work for Red? Does he work for Fitz? What's this guy about? So why don't you guys tell us? We want to remind you that the show's not done yet. Your thoughts, your theories, your answers to these questions are what really makes the show possible. And those talkback clips are coming up next, but you do need to get that free TV Talk app in order to hear those talkback clips. And of course, record your own voice with your thoughts and theories right there with the TV Talk app. So you can go out to tvtalkapp.com in order to get the full TV Talk experience on iOS and Android.
And while you're out there surfing around, head on over to tvtalk.com/win to be entered into the weekly prize drawing, as well as share with all your friends on Twitter and Facebook that you listen to TV Talk and TV Talk The Blacklist.
We hope you join us again next time as we continue the journey with The Judge next week when we return. Until then, I'm Troy.
And I'm Dave, always looking to see if you're carrying a suitcase so I can put you on The Blacklist.
And now it's time for this week's Talkback Clips.
We hope you enjoyed this special version of The Blacklist Exposed, previously aired on the TV Talk Network and used with permission. Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at H_outsider. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.